Hi, my name's Phil. I talk about politics, and the winner for the poll for the next Tory leadership candidate to discuss was Michael, the Gopher Gove, who is the former Education Secretary. That's particularly annoying for me as a teacher. I know it's an unfortunate fact that Secretary of State positions are, of course, assigned politically. The holders usually have little interest and even less knowledge about their ministry. So as a result, we end up appointing industry secretaries that are lazy, foreign secretaries that are xenophobic, chancellors that are financially illiterate, home secretaries that are criminals, and health secretaries that want to disband the NHS. And of course, education secretaries that know nothing at all about anything. And in Gove's case, this is quite literally true. The damage he did during his relatively brief time in the Department for Education is still being felt years later today. But when it comes to his leadership bid, what is his policy on the one issue that currently matters above all others? What would he do about Brexit? Well, Gove has said that he'd actually be prepared to seek an extension well into next year in order to organise an acceptable deal. I read an article in the Financial Times that noted that when you look at the list of contenders so far, and I remind people that the contest hasn't actually started yet, so there's still time to add to the currently 13 MPs who've tossed their hat into the ring, Michael Gove actually looks to be one of the more moderate ones, is the way they described it, because he's not going gung-ho for a no-deal Brexit. And that's true. There's nothing moderate about Michael Gove, really. He's very much on the right of his parliamentary party, maybe not as extreme right as some others. But compared to some of those other nutters, he is positively reasonable, at least on Brexit. Sort of. Or perhaps he's just a bit more honest in this regard. The contenders who say they would negotiate a better deal, but still leave by the 31st of October at the latest, are either woefully ignorant or lying. Maybe both. The deal is not up for negotiation, certainly within that time frame, for three reasons. One, the EU have discharged their duty under Article 50 and agreed a withdrawal deal with the UK government. It has been agreed. It's done. The fact that the UK government couldn't get it through their own parliament is no fault of the EU's. Given the list of fools as well that they've been made to suffer in these negotiations, I can't blame them for not wanting to carry out another round with the same group of lunatics. Second thing is that the Conservatives want to negotiate a change that is not legally or politically possible. So further negotiation wouldn't yield a way forward anyway. In fact, it could only serve to make the agreement worse for the UK, but that's probably a topic for another day. And then the third thing is we've just had the European elections. Now, maybe many of the Conservatives don't realise this because they weren't really actively campaigning. But yeah, we've just had European elections. What that means is that all the positions in the European Commission are up for grabs. The new European Parliament hasn't even sat yet. So the process of appointing them can't be completed until, well after they do, really. The Commission positions may not be filled until November. That would be after the Brexit deadline of October 31st. In short, there is nobody to negotiate with. And if any of the contenders who claim to be able to negotiate a new deal before this deadline are genuinely so thick that they think they can, surely someone would have had a quiet word in their ear by now. So perhaps Michael Gove is just showing awareness of this and genuinely wants to make sure that we only leave with an agreed deal. That being said, don't imagine that what he's doing is for the best of the country. He's still in favour of Brexit. There is only one contender out of the 13 that isn't, and Gove has said that he would be prepared to leave without a deal. He just doesn't want to before he's had a chance to arrange one. And it's a stance he's been attacked for. His leadership rivals, or at least some of them, have said that his pitch to delay would allow Jeremy Corbyn into number 10. Now, I'd personally say that it would be the opposite. Yes, I'm a Remainer and so would prefer any stance that leaves us in the EU, even if it's just a bit longer. But let's look at it objectively. As I discussed last week, Conservative MPs on both sides of the debate have both said that they'd be prepared to sink their government over this. If the new Prime Minister takes us on a path of no deal, a few have said that they'd vote against them in a confidence motion. If they say they'll take us out without a deal, but then don't, then the ERG have said that they'd do the same. So unless one side is bluffing, a new Prime Minister cannot possibly win by advocating no deal, whether they go through with it or not. There will be a general election if they do this. And as much as Labour are shooting themselves in the foot, there exists the chance that Corbyn could indeed become Prime Minister. But if a candidate stands on a platform of extending so that they can accomplish what May could not, then they're in a much stronger position. Moderates won't take them down because they're not committing us to a disastrous no-deal Brexit. But the ERG would also have to tread carefully because the plan will have been backed by the party membership if Gove does win the leadership contest. However, Conservatives are under the very strong impression that such a stance would not actually be backed by a majority of the membership. So perhaps his position is just so that he's free of all blame when a no-deal position backfires on the MP and his supporters, or her supporters, who do win the contest. Perhaps he's just playing a longer game on this. The serious leadership contenders all wanted May to complete the first phase before they swooped in, so she could take the full blame for it. Gove clearly has genuine leadership ambitions, which is why he supported May so publicly. There's a feeling in politics, and in the Conservative Party in particular, that those who wield the sword will never wear the crown. So he backed his own government to the hilt to show loyalty to the party and his colleagues. But he knows that the next leader is also likely to be crushed by Brexit. It's not certain in these times of rising populism where even the most incompetent leaders can retain popularity. But politics in Britain would have to become even madder than it already is for the next Prime Minister, on a platform of leaving by October 31st at the latest, not to be thrown out of number 10 a few months later. Put simply, if we leave on October 31st, Parliament will throw the new Prime Minister out on their arse. So by standing on a platform of negotiating a suitable deal, but acknowledging the time needed to do it, he can remove himself not only from the blame afforded May's stance, but also of her successor. That might stand him in better stead for the following leadership contest. But let's not pretend that Gove would have any idea how to handle Brexit were he to actually win this time round or in the future. Remember that he's the one who said, the day after we vote to leave, we hold all the cards and can choose the path we want. Well, we haven't chosen the path we want even 3 years later. In fact, nobody has even suggested a path, let alone got an agreement on it. In terms of domestic policy, his voting record shows why the Financial Times might describe him as something as a moderate against the extremists that he's lining up against. He has mostly voted for military engagements overseas and screwing over the poor, sure. But he's also generally voted in favour of more rights, including gay rights as well. So a typical Conservative in terms of hating the poor and foreigners, but also of removing restrictions in all other aspects of people's lives. A small government deregulator who would appeal to the wealthy and with his record of voting for lower taxation for the rich in particular, but also be the bane of ordinary Britain's lives. But then, who amongst the other contenders wouldn't be? So that's my summary of Michael Gove. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content. Until next time, I'll see you later.